But let's find some sounds. I think I want to do maybe like a bell melody of some kind. I don't know exactly what I want to make yet. Okay, let's make something. Start with this. Later, I might not. Let's go with D minor. And then I think I want to go like 177. Let's go a little bit lower. Let's repeat this. I might use this as like just something that repeats the entire time basically in the melody, and then other things can change. Let's do a choir. Well, that's kind of a cool effect. So maybe we can, instead of changing the notes themselves, we can change like the timing of like when the notes hit. So we can maybe have this come in later and this come in even later than that. Well, I say keep it the same. Let me pitch this one up. And then we'll do the same thing with this one that we did with this one, where we can just kind of move some of the timings. So let's do that. So it basically sounds the same, it's just a little bit different with like the delivery, I guess. And then I think I do want to make it a little bit more different over here. I change the notes necessarily. So maybe we can just do some inversions. So bring this one up, and then maybe we'll make it a little bit more complex. So maybe we'll have it end halfway and then add another note. Maybe one that leads into like this other note for this other thing. Maybe we can do the same kind of timing thing with this one. Let's do something similar, like have this note kind of change halfway through. And then we can do another inversion. And then these are already kind of changed because we kind of changed this right here. So how can we make this one a little bit different? Maybe we do like an inversion and we have it change halfway through. And then maybe it comes back down. And then we can probably do something similar here. So maybe this goes up and then back down. So it kind of repeats. It's like an idea that repeats. And then let's do another inversion. So the differences between the second like 8 bars and the first 8 bars, they really aren't that different, even though they might look a little different. This one just has some extra notes thrown in halfway through. And then also I've got some extra inversions going on, along with a little extra, you know, like flavor notes here and there. But all in all, it's really not that different. So, okay, I think I want to add more bells now. So I'm going to find the Dream Bell in Citrus. And then maybe we can make this bell kind of change a little bit. So maybe these notes come down. Maybe these stay down. I'm trying to keep the notes like generally in the same range, like frequency range. That actually fixed it. Okay, so let's copy this over and then let's do the same thing. Let's make it slightly different in the second half. We add a little flavor note here. So I'm just adding little, like, this is like a little extra note about halfway through this thing. And then I had 2 little extra notes here. I've got an extra note here. So I'm just adding some extra like flavor notes that aren't in the like first half of the pattern. Okay, I think I'm going to make the choir separated for a couple of reasons. One, it's like a sound that's happening at all times basically. Like I don't have it pausing at any point. And so my my thinking is, like, I want to kind of push that out to the sides so that the things that aren't hitting or aren't playing all the time or aren't hitting all the time aren't competing with something at all points in the middle, because that I really want to be heard. I don't know if any of that made any kind of sense, but that's one reason why I want to separate it. Another reason is it has a good amount of low end information, and so I want to push that out to the sides for a similar reason, because later on when I add a kick or an 808 or something, I'm going to put that in mono, and I don't want as many things in the low end like competing with that kind of stuff. So okay, but let's actually add like effects to this. So I want to add a chorus. This is like a super awesome plugin or effect just for, in general, for like sound designing. Makes it sound cool in a lot of cases, or gives you like a really cool effect. Fine, like the default preset is something I use all the time. In this case, I want to see what polychorus sounds like. Okay, I think I like that. Let's add some flanges. Okay, so as far as the effects, for the original bell that I have, all I did was EQ some frequencies down and low cut, and then I low cut on basically everything here. With the Dream Bell, I did the same thing, low cut, a little bit of frequencies that were kind of harsh, added a little bit of delay but mixed it back. The reason I added delay to the Dream Bell and not the Crystal Bell is because the Dream Bell already has like reverb and that sort of like sound on it, and so it already sounds like it's kind of further back in the mix, and so by adding a small amount of delay, I'm kind of accentuating that and kind of adding a little bit more of a reverby effect to it rather than delay, but yeah, so I chose to put it on that because I just wanted to make it even more so, put it even further in the back. And I wanted to keep this one kind of more in the front because I want that contrast. I want something in the front, something in the back, things on the sides. Like, I want to fill the space out with my melody. And so if this one already kind of is sitting in the back, I might as well push it a little bit further back so that this other Crystal Bell can be like, sound like it's more present and more in the front, at least relative to this. And then in contrast to both of these, I have the choir being pushed out to the sides. It also has a whole bunch of other effects on it, which are pushing it into the back as well as the Dream Bell, but it's being pushed further back than the Dream Bell is, and it's also out to the sides. So none of these are really taking up the exact same space. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do, and I think this will be most of the melody for this video, but the next thing I'm going to do is make them sound a little bit more realistic. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to this first bell, the one that's just repeating over and over again. Control A, Alt R. If you're on Mac, I think the thing is Command, but I'm not sure. I don't have a Mac, so I do apologize. I don't know the exact shortcuts. Alt R randomized the velocities and everything. Let me pull that up again so that we can see it, because I did that kind of fast. And these are the settings that I have for it. Just changing the velocity a little bit, small amount of release, and then bipolar is checked on. Everything else is basically left alone. And then if I had notes playing on top of each other, I would usually strum it. But in this case, that doesn't do anything because we don't have notes playing on top of each other like this. So the next thing I'll do is Alt Q pulls up the quantizer, and then I've got dotted eighth notes selected, but you can just kind of play with these and pick one. I like the results that I get from dotted eighth notes. And then I like to put this pointing towards the start time, but you can play with this to taste. But you'll notice as I move this up and down, you'll see the notes being shifted forwards and backwards. That's because this is the quantizer grid that I have selected. So if this is all the way on, every note is now on a dotted eighth note timing. In fact, if we zoomed in on it and then did it again, you'll see it moved the note that was on this, like 5, is now on the grid that I selected, which is the dotted eighth note. Same thing with this note. It was on this 6, but now it's directly on the dotted eighth note. And if you have it all the way down, it's like nothing changed. The notes are exactly where they were before. So if you want some kind of randomization, what you can do is put this somewhere in the middle, and you'll notice this one got moved forwards, whereas this one got moved backwards. It kind of affects the notes differently in kind of a random way. So, and then you can play with this to see how much of that you really want. Like I said, I like to have it pointing somewhere at the start time. Hit accept, And so now we've kind of randomized our notes a little bit, the timing anyway. And I'm going to accentuate that and just kind of randomly select some of these. And move them back just a smidge. Okay. And then you can move them a little bit more if you want to. And then do the same thing and move some of the notes forward a little bit. So let's move back. Now they're kind of randomized with the timings, with the velocities, and all that stuff. And I'm going to do the same thing for both of these other. Let's do the same thing. So Control A, Alt R. And then, again, these are the settings. And then Alt-Q pulls up the quantizer. Pick a grid. I'm going to leave everything alone because I have it the way I want it. Hit Accept. And then we can just kind of select some of these at random. And just move them a little bit more. Okay, and then do the same thing and pull some of them forwards. But yeah, so this should sound a little bit more human-like. So let's go to the next one. Okay, this is a choir. I really do want this one to sound more realistic because it's, like I said, a choir. So let's hit Control A, Alt R, which randomizes the velocity, release, and, well, that's it in this case. I'm going to hit Alt S, and in this case, it does strum because we have notes on top of each other. And I have the settings like this. You can play with the settings to taste. But I generally like to have it kind of like modest settings, pretty light settings. And I like to alternate the direction. So it'll kind of like strum them down and then strum them up and then strum them down. And I'm going to hit Alt Q and quantize. So doing the same thing, randomly kind of pushing and pulling them forwards and backwards. We'd make humanized. Okay, so this was the Dream Bell. How did I do that? Wait, I didn't know you could do that. Oh my god, that's awesome. You can just right click this and it just, I guess, randomly selects one, or maybe it goes in order. I'm not sure. I'm learning new things. Just right click this and it changes the color. I can already hear a string on this, like a cello. Ooh, I bet it would sound cool if it started up here and then went down there. Okay, so we have all of them on the mixer channel now. Just making sure the levels are about where I want them. I might change it slightly for like the final beat, but okay, I think that's basically how I want it. Let me make sure. And that's going to be about it for the purposes of this video. I will go through and, you know, add a beat to this, add drums and all that stuff, arrange and mix and master everything. But that's going to be about it. So let's listen back to it.